Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly and welcome everybody once again for another video of DIY investing. This most recent Bitcoin correction has saw some things that we haven't really been used to. Even with the market correcting, there's still been a number of different altcoins that are really starting to take off. Now this leads me to believe that there's a lot of people buying the rumor of this halving, and there really isn't a lot more downside potential before we do start the inevitable rally up back to this all-time high mark. It's really important that we understand what is happening inside of Bitcoin because Bitcoin is really the driver of value inside of this market. And so today I'm going to be diving into some new analysis inside of Bitcoin. We're going to be taking a look at the shorter time frame perspectives, and we're also going to be diving out to the big picture, and we're going to be analyzing the full trend along with the Bitcoin halvings so we know exactly what is coming for this next cycle. It's going to completely shock you guys just how identical this cycle is, and what is coming for us is something that is going to be mind-blowing. Remember, if you are new and just finding this channel, always remember to do myself a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Make sure you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. I also offer a video course and signals. So if you guys are looking to join a community, I highly recommend that you check out my Discord server. In the Discord server, I offer 20 educational videos. It's a video series that teach you guys all of the same strategies that I use to profit inside of crypto. All of the strategies that I've learned and developed over the course of my 4 years investing, I teach all in this 20 educational videos so that you guys can fully understand what it takes to be profitable as a cryptocurrency trader. If you're mainly just looking for portfolio management and you want to actually copy my own portfolio along with follow along what trades I'm taking, I highly recommend that you guys check out the signals. The signals are a mix of short-term, mid-term, and long-term trading and investing setups and strategies. So you guys are definitely going to want to check that out if you want to actually copy what I'm doing in the market so you guys can profit alongside with me. Both of these are really valuable, and I know that you guys will find a ton of resource in them. So I highly recommend that you guys join the Discord by clicking the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you're going to get access. Once you have access, just shoot me a message and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. Quickly before we start this video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my subscribers, all of the followers on Twitter, and anybody inside of my Discord. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited to have you guys here a part of this journey. It's a long journey. It's one that's going to see a lot of volatility. I know that we're starting to see that over the last couple weeks, and a lot of people have been scared, which is exactly why I wanted to make this video so that we're all on the knowing exactly what is happening with Bitcoin on a short perspective, what is also happening on a longer term perspective, so that we're not so stuck with all of this volatility. Let's jump right into this video so I can analyze exactly what is coming for this amazing Bitcoin cycle. So to start off this video, we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on the dollar. Now I'm using charts.cointrader.pro to look at this, so the price isn't going to be 100% live. But I wanted to talk about this one because I already have two different charts drawn on TradingView. And so we're going to go through and analyze the short-term perspective inside of Bitcoin so that we kind of know exactly what to expect here, because there is a lot of important things that are playing out. Now, let's actually drop it to a daily time frame. Let's zoom in here. So from our last update, really what I told you guys was that I was watching 9,500 and then I was watching to about 9,100, and I was watching this area because I figured that if we were going to get a bounce out of this region and continue making higher highs, it was going to happen here. But what actually took place was we sold through that level convincingly. Now, what that means is that we still have a longer correction. Now, am I really too worried about what just took place, or is this kind of more what's customary? Now, to me, this just looks like a healthy correction. I'm not too worried. Even if we went a little bit lower than I initially was thinking, it's not that big of a deal because of the fact this is what's to be expected with such a strong impulse that we just saw. Now, to me, I really like how this impulse looks because to me it looks a little bit more sustainable. Now, what we see is little short-term corrections on the entire way up in this trend. Obviously, the corrections get shorter as we get to the top, but what we were seeing was a number of these different short-term corrections the whole way up, and so that's pretty customary inside of an impulse. Now, what's also happening after this impulse is we're seeing a very strong sell-off. Now, if we drop it to a monthly time frame, you're going to hear a lot of what people were talking about on crypto Twitter. Basically, what they were talking about was this big, ugly monthly close that we just saw right here. Now, that monthly close has a big, nasty wick. Obviously speaking, whenever you see these wicks, it's generally at the top of a trend before we keep going lower. But I actually don't think that we're headed much lower from here. In fact, I think it's much more likely that we are going to see more impulses coming out of this correction. Now, my reasons for this is because this just looks like a short-term consolidation, and I think that a lot of people have seemed to have forgotten about the fact that we had this major descending resistance. This was the major descending resistance that held us the length of this bearish trend in this consolidation, and we broke out of that. And so with us being completely outside of this and just correcting, there's really no reason to be super scared, because a lot of people I see on Twitter, a lot of people on TradingView are actually posting for Bitcoin to drop significantly lower. Now, I think that it's very possible we could dip to $7,800, which should still be a little bit lower from here. But I see a lot of charts that are claiming that we're going to drop back down to 6K and even down to 5,500. While all of these are possibilities, I think that there's a significant majority of consolidation that needs to take place before we can really consider that, because what we have done is broken from that major downtrend. Now, with us being outside of this, I'm looking for a couple scenarios. My primary count has this as a 1, 3, and 5 Elliott wave impulse up, and really what this looks to me is something along the lines of an ABC correction back down. Now, what can take place inside of this ABC is we still could have lower, theoretically. We could still make one more low, and that would take me to about a target of $7,800. And so that's what I'm going to watch if we do in fact get more downside potential, is $7,800, which would be about right here. I think that that would be a pretty significant bottom. That's a pretty strong area of consolidation that we've seen thus far. And so I would expect that this level would hold. Now, it doesn't have to go all the way down here. We're already seeing a green candle forming from these lows that we saw right here. And so it is possible that we could start the impulse right now. But kind of what I'm watching for is if we do get one more leg lower, I think it'll be short-lived. I think it'll be something along the lines of this. We might bounce up. We could bounce all the way upwards of $9,500 without technically breaking market structure for the lower low. And so we still have quite a bit of upside potential to move around here inside of this consolidation. But bear scenario has that being a 4-wave retrace before we actually have one more final 5-wave impulse back down. And that's something that can happen, and it is what I'm watching for. Now, for me, it doesn't necessarily matter whether we go up from here or whether we dip a little lower. I've accumulated the bulk of my long-term bids, and so I'm really not too worried about that. Right now, I just wanted to make this analysis so that we were kind of all on the same page as far as what to expect here. Now, that's what I'm going to watch out for. As long as $7,800 holds, then I think that it's a go for a further continuation in this bull trend. So just watch and see what happens over the next couple weeks. Now, this, everybody, takes us to the biggest part of the analysis here. Now, what I want to talk to you guys about is really some of the big picture trend that we're seeing develop inside of Bitcoin. And we're going to be applying the halving dates, and then we're also going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin cycle from back in 2013, and we're also going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin cycle today. And we're going to just be showing the comparisons and similarities in market structure, and we're going to be applying those similarities to see kind of what we can expect in the long-term perspective. Now, what I have here is a logarithmic chart. This shows the parabolic trend of Bitcoin. All of Bitcoin's price history is on this trend. Now, what you're going to notice is 3 blue lines. Now, each one of these blue lines represent where the halvings were, and this is about an estimate of where I expect the next halving to take place. Somewhere around the 10th of May, approximately, anywhere from about the 10th to the 20th of May. That's about the predictions as far as when we'll experience that next halving. And so we are getting very close to this. Us getting so close to this, it made me really want to update you guys with some perspective that we can look for, because I do believe this is going to be a significant catalyst for this next bull run. Now, due to this correction, due to all the uncertainty with all of the global markets right now, it's really important that we're not super scared of what's taking place. This sell-off had an ugly monthly close, but realistically, I don't see what has changed. We've broken from all major descending resistance. We've made a higher high. There's a lot more money inside of this market. Us getting so close to this halving, I do strongly believe that we're going to continue to see more impulses inside of this market. Now, let's actually go through here and actually analyze some things. Let's go take a look at the first halving, and we're going to kind of see a similar pattern that plays out. Now, it's going to be a little bit different from the current halving, but what we saw previously was a bull cycle. The top of the bull cycle saw a short-term correction, and then when we finished that correction, it came about a year before that halving, right? And that's where we finished. And that's where we finished the bottom of that correction. Now, what takes place shortly after is we get really first 2 impulses on that new trend, and then we get the top, and then that's really where that halving takes place. And then after the halving is where we get the price discovery. And we can see that we saw roughly the same sort of trend playing out both times. We get the first two little leg ups, and then that's what really starts that price discovery, right? Now, the same thing was said in the last cycle as well. We get these two little leg ups, and then that's what starts the price discovery. And so I'm thinking that this cycle will behave a little different because it already is different. Now, instead of getting the first two leg ups, we really just got one big impulse, and that one big impulse was really about the size of both of these two small leg ups. And so instead of just having two little impulses, we had one bigger impulse that was about the same size of both. And so realistically, we're still following the same trend. Not much has changed. We're still getting really identical market structure. Not much has changed as far as that end. But what we have coming up is this third halving. Now, based off of the previous two halvings, every time we have one of these, it catapults Bitcoin into major price discovery. And that's actually what I'm expecting to play out once again. Now, what generally happens is we create this short-term trend. We bounce off of this trend and accumulate. The halving takes place, and then we really break into that new paradigm, into that crazy price discovery phase. And this is the same thing that happened in the last cycle as well. We get the finish at the bottom, and then we actually start trending on this. On this trend line, and that's where we accumulate before halving takes place, and then we shoot into price discovery. And so what we're seeing currently is roughly the same sort of trend taking place once again. This is the trend line. We made our first impulse. We came back down to retest that. And now what's coming up shortly is this next halving. Now, what could take place, there's a couple scenarios here. What I'm watching for personally is the fact that we have this short-term correction. We could drop down a little tiny bit lower, but I'm actually expecting us to continue to impulse and actually front run this halving. Now, what's taking place, we can see that we broke out immediately after the first halving. We had a short-term correction, one last lower low before we started the next new cycle in that. And so right here, us being finishing that first impulse, us mainly just kind of correcting right before this halving, I do believe that we're going to see something similar to what happened back here, where after the halving, our correction was pretty much already done, and then we really just started impulsing. And so I think we could very easily see something play out similar to what happened back in here. Now, this is really important because these halvings are, I think, the biggest catalyst for Bitcoin's price discovery. And so it's important that we know what is happening with these halvings. Now, this is where they're going to take place, and this is kind of how the cycles look. And so because the cycles look so close already, I'm not really too shaken out by what's taking place in all of the fear around the markets and the world economy in general. And so just pay attention for this. Now, this is actually what's going to take us into the next part of our chart. And we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin cycle today. And we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin cycle in the last one. Now, the reason for this is because both are following roughly the same sort of trend. And I think it's really important that if we understand exactly how the cycles are lining up, we'll understand exactly what we still have to come. Now, let's go through and take a look at the first Bitcoin cycle. And we're going to apply the formulas of the New Year events, because I think it's a really important thing to talk about. Now, what we see inside of Bitcoin was a major parabolic run. Right before the new year, we start to get a top, and that's what we saw here. We saw this major impulse, and then we sold off, made our first lower high, and then that was really where the new year took place. And then we started this new bearish trend. Now, a year from that point, from the reversal, takes us to almost the exact bottom, or the reversal point of the bear market. So reversal point of the bull market, 1 year of bear market, that shows the new year, shows the reversal point of the bear market. And then we start this sideways consolidation, and that's what takes us into this second awareness phase. This is the accumulation, and then that actually takes us into our first impulse. And then that's another year. A year after capitulation takes us to our first higher high. And this is the way that the cycles are working, and this is what I want to talk to you guys about, because we're seeing the same trend unfold. Now, what we saw was a major parabolic run, and then we start this new bearish cycle. Now, the bearish cycle goes in phases of 4, and that's what I've been updating you guys with. You have the top of the bull trend, you have the bottom of the bear trend, you have the first higher high and the start of the new bull trend, and then technically a year after that would take us into really where the markets actually start to go parabolic, right? And then we have another year of uptrend. So you theoretically could say it's years of 5. But either way, what we're seeing taking place is the same sort of trend. Now, just like in the last cycle, we see a major parabolic trend play out. We start to actually break down shortly before that new year. We make our first lower high. New year takes place. And then we start the same trend again. Now, a year takes us Now a year from the cycle high takes us to the cycle low, and then a year from the cycle low takes us to our first impulse of this new trend. And that's exactly what we saw here. Same thing, 1, 2, 3, and we're seeing the exact same thing play out once again. 1, 2, 3. Once again, the only real difference that we saw here was accumulation inside of the last cycle was a lot longer. In fact, we went clear out to about here before we got an impulse, and the impulse was actually smaller. But what we saw in the current Bitcoin cycle was a much shorter consolidation period. We saw a much bigger impulse. And so really what this leads me to believe is that there's more money into this market because we saw such a big impulse and a short consolidation period. That leads me to believe that there's actually a significant majority of this new money entering Bitcoin as institutional money. Why else would we see such a parabolic run out of these early lows? And that's what we saw here. I mean, if we take a look at the market structure that we saw from 3,200 upwards of 14K, this was a very parabolic impulse. Get this rounded bottom, and then we see that the trend just gets more and more parabolic until we get a massive blow off top. And this consolidation almost looks the exact same as what we saw at the cycle top. We went from $3,000 to 20K, and this is almost the exact same sort of accumulation that we saw, just a really massive parabolic blow off top. And that's the exact same accumulation here. And the reason I believe that we saw such a strong impulse is because institutional money has bought the dip. They are continuing to buy the dip, and they will continue to do so before this halving takes place. And so that's why it's really important that we're taking time to accumulate. We're looking at the long-term scale because right now, we just made our first impulse out of the new year. In my opinion, this is just a short-term one wave. And we're going to see further impulses to about 14K shortly. And I think that really we're about to start seeing a massive impulse coming. And so it's important that we're taking the positions now while the market is really slow, while the market is cheap, everything's shaken out, everybody's fearful. This is the time where you want to be buying, because we can see, guys, that the two cycles are almost the exact same. The only real difference that we're seeing today is the fact that this impulse was much bigger, it happened faster, it didn't take as much time to accumulate, which should just be a #1 go-to buy signal. That shows you that there is a lot of money that is buying this dip. If it was going to skyrocket the prices from $3,200 to 14K over the course of just a few months, you know, what's going to take place when they have an entire market cycle to really pump? And so that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about with this update. I wanted us to all be on the same page with Bitcoin because I know it's been scary with this correction. Realistically, for me, I am in the same position that I was, a month ago. My positions haven't changed. My portfolio hasn't changed. I'm holding for the long term. I told myself that I was going to do whatever it took to not take any profits before the halving. I was just going to accumulate. I was just going to buy, even if I saw short-term losses, even if I saw some of my profits kind of evaporate. I was going to do my part by just buying the trend. And what I saw was this trend playing out. I knew that as long as we bought before the halving, it was a good buying opportunity. And we can see that here. If you would have just bought any time before this halving inside of the bear market, you can see that it would have been a really, really good buying opportunity. We saw price discovery shortly after this halving. And so I'm banking on that once again. I expect this to play out as it has in times past. I mean, what we're seeing currently inside of the market is we're actually topping out in the Bitcoin dominance. Now, what I saw and what I've been updating you guys with, I was expecting that we're actually going to impulse to about 79% dominance. We started to top out, and so I don't think that we're actually going to do that. But this is actually better now because we're just going to see more money flood into the altcoins. And so it's really a win-win unless you're just a Bitcoin maximalist. Now, we had this major trend line, and we were bouncing off of this. What just took place is the fact that Bitcoin sold through this. Now, we're now getting rejected, and this is what you would call a trend line flip or a support and resistance flip. It's same sort of thing. This is just diagonal support and resistance. And what we see here is we're actually selling through that, and we're now rejecting. And so if we don't get an immediate buyback that takes us back above this trend line so that we can continue to go up higher, then I'm actually going to expect that this thing has topped, and we're going to see a much stronger retrace back down to about here, which would take us to about 55% dominance. Now, this is why I'm bullish on altcoins, this is why I haven't taken profit. When this Bitcoin dominance tops, you don't want to be the dude stuck holding a ton of Bitcoin when all of the altcoins are outperforming. And so really, guys, this is the update I had for you. Wanted to talk about everything that I possibly could with Bitcoin. Wanted to talk about the long-term perspective, short-term perspective, talk about just my thoughts in general leading up to this halving. We talked about the cycles, how the cycles are lining up. And so I really think that this update is going to pretty much just talk about all of my thoughts going forward. I think that we're all going to be left in the knowing of what to expect. And so if you guys are feeling fear right now, don't sell anything. Don't panic. This is all part of the correction. If you are feeling a lot of fear, rethink your trading plan, because obviously there's something awry inside of that. But for me, guys, I make these videos and I keep a level head. Right now I'm as comfortable as I ever have been. And the reason for that is just because I've trained my brain and I've trained my emotional state not to react with what price does, because I see the long-term perspective. I'm a cryptocurrency analyst. It's really my analysis that judges what I'm doing with my investments. And so this is kind of what I'm doing right now. There's no reason to be shaken out of the market. Just keep a level head. One thing, a little bit of advice that I could give as far as what I personally do to help keep my level head inside of the market is I meditate every day. I work out as well. As long as you can do something along those lines, getting out in nature, whether it doesn't really matter what you're doing, just getting out, doing something you enjoy. I personally like to meditate every single day. If I meditate for at least 20 minutes, it really helps me to regain that focus. I don't get so groggy. I actually wake up earlier in the mornings if I do it late at night. And so it's just something to keep a note of. It really does help to keep you, away from being a slave to your own emotional state, because if you are a slave to your own emotions, you're just going to lose your money, and that's as simple as it goes. So make sure you guys are doing your part, taking care of yourself, meditate, go work out, get into nature, go hang out with some friends, do something. It's good to get away from the charts sometimes, especially right now when it's really fearful. Realistically, I see only more upside coming. I see more reasons to be bullish. I see more reasons why I'm going to be accumulating. And so that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you found any value in this, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel. Make sure you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. If you guys want access to my Discord server, all you got to do is click the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you're going to get access. Once you have access, just message me here. If you guys want access to any of the video course or the signals, I can get to you on here. So make sure you guys just reach out through that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will catch you in the next video. As always, peace out.